Father has been charged in connection with the Penn State fraternity drug ring, and surprise, the dad is a prominent lawyer who was trying to obstruct the case and hide the drugs.
We have our official attorney, Lisa Lanier, on the phone to help break this down. Good morning, Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, this dad, he wasn't involved in the drug operation as it was ongoing, and it was a big operation. 13 students have been charged. His son was accused as one of the two ringleaders. They would travel to Philadelphia and New York City, and they would purchase large amounts of cocaine, bring it back, and they were fraternity guys. And so they would go to their fraternity house at Delta Upsilon and Sigma Chi, and they would have their fellow fraternity guys, including forcing pledges to do this, allegedly. And they would process the drugs, weigh them, cut them, package them, then sell them to students. And it was a massive operation. They're charged with really serious felonies. But what the father, Paul Robinson, did, he's the managing partner of a very well-known Pittsburgh firm. And what he did was he hid a safe for them that contained cash and drugs. And he also did other things that they say hindered the investigation. So he's charged with felonies, evidence tampering, and hindering investigation. And it's serious. And he's likely to lose, of course, his law license and go to prison. The charges each carry various penalties, 2 years, 7 years. So altogether, he's facing about 10 years in prison.
That's a little long, isn't it?
Man.
A little long.
Seems a little light.
Well, I think that cocaine now, it used to be a hardcore drug, and now it just seems like it's, compared to all the other drugs, not that big of a deal.
Well, the boys that were doing the drug distribution are facing much, much more serious penalties. But the dad, these are just, cumulatively, that's what they could add up to. It's not necessarily likely that he'll do 10 years. That's what he faces a maximum. But he probably won't do quite that much. But he will, the Pennsylvania State Bar will take his license.
What about the students? How long are they facing?
Oh, they're facing much more serious charges, like 20 years and plus.
Really?
I mean,
As a college kid?
Felony, the scale of what they were doing was massive, and these are serious felonies. And cocaine is still classified as a very serious. I mean, it has not been declassified the way marijuana has been, and so.
Yeah, Jason,
and
they're not just...
they're selling it to students, and they're forcing these pledges to do it as part of their hazing process.
Well, they don't have to do it, only if they want to be in the fraternity.
But, that's the problem.
Coercing.
And they're not just like, doing drugs at a party. This is like, you heard Lisa said they were cutting the drugs, they're weighing the drugs, they're packaging the manual, like all the different,
Going
and then
across
selling.
state lines
Yes, this is a massive operation.
I just think, selling some cocaine to another student, I don't think you should be in jail.
Are you just saying that just to be contrary?
No, I swear.
Really?
Are you saying it's because you have a son in college?
Is that what? Are you hiding a safe?
Yeah.
Somewhere? Do you?
What's in your safe?
Are you serious? Even if it's like not just a one-off, but it's like a massive drug deal?
Maybe it's.
Lisa is really questioning you right now.
Maybe if it's a massive drug ring, but I don't think selling some cocaine to another.
They're not
college
just selling the cocaine.
Well, that's the big one.
It's a whole network.
The whole deal.
What do they call that when you are transporting drugs? There's a term
You're a
for it.
mule.
You're a mule. Yeah, but there's another term.
Trafficking.
Drug kingpin, trafficking,
Drug trafficking. That's
These
a whole
are college
other-
kids. They're kids still.
They clearly have a business plan.
They have a ring.
they had a very good business plan. It sounds like until they got caught.
Yeah.
They
But,
should
this brings up this question that we talk about all the time because we're all parents. How far would you go to protect your kid, right?
I know.
We've talked about it in the context of kids who are murderers or kids who are, would you hide them? And here, Dad is seeing that his son is in trouble, and he's trying to throw the cops off with, hindering their investigation, and he's hiding their drugs and their cash that are in a safe. I mean, how far would you guys go to do that? That's the question.
Jason would be a part of the ring, but
Clearly.
yeah.
I'm not. I wouldn't be a part of the ring. I'm just saying they're kids and they're selling cocaine to other kids. And from what I understand, from what Landon has told me, going to school, it's rampant. It's not like it used to be where it's like, oh my gosh, it's the worst drug ever. It's like, when you start getting into the new drugs like meth and fentanyl and heroin, maybe that's not new. The cocaine is almost like it used to be when we were going to school, like weed.
But it doesn't mean it is like weed. It's kind of like your fentanyl and smoking thing. You're like, or not fentanyl, I'm sorry, vaping and smoking.
There's a big difference.
But cocaine is as Rick James said, a hell of a drug. Yeah, this is not some like minor thing. People can have overdoses and problems, and it can ruin your life.
Mm-hmm. And then you're making them do it to be able to be a part of your fraternity,
right?
And it's like, well, you had the choice.
And the trafficking. Now, to answer your question, Lisa, I do think we always say I wouldn't do anything to throw people off or for my kids if they did it. Like, I don't know, if you're like, man, they're facing all this time in prison, you might end up doing something dumb.
You could.
Would you hide the safe? Would you hide the safe?
I probably. I mean,
you would.
I don't know. Well, now that I know, if I'm like going,
it'd be hard to say no to your kid about.
I would have to go to ChatGPT and see what I'm facing. And if they're like, you're facing 10 years, I'm like, I can't go to prison. But I'd almost want to do anything I could to like make it so that my son wasn't guilty,
to protect them,
because you're like, they're going to prison for the next 20 or 30 years.
My point is, they learn their lesson after going to prison for a few years.
Okay.
These are kids. They don't need to be going to prison for 20 years. I seriously think that a college kid, if Landon was in part of the drug ring and he was sentenced to even a year, I don't think he would ever do it again. Putting these kids away for 10 to 15 to 20 years, I don't think that does anything bad. If anything, it makes things worse because they're not even living in society.
Well, they'll probably plea bargain it down. I mean, when we talk about, facing up to its maximum, and usually to get the maximum, you have to have like some kind of priors or something. But here it was pretty egregious. I mean, I think, the fact that they were, particularly what's a bad look for these kids is that they were making these pledges do it in order to be considered to be in the fraternity. And that's pretty bad. And the fact that they were selling it on such a large scale, also a bad look. But I still think because they are first-time offenders and they're young and they have access, even though their dad's going down big time as a lawyer, they have access to good legal representation.
But how long do you think a student...
Just not him.
How long do you think a student would go?
Right, but they have access to others, but not him. Right.
How long do you think a student at that college for being a part of that will go to prison for?
It's hard to say because there is such public outcry about it right now, but I mean, I would think it would be like 5 years or something that they could, if they can. Yeah, I mean, they may not even be able. So the sentencing guidelines sometimes, and I don't know if that's too much in the weeds, but sometimes the sentencing guidelines won't let the judge go below a certain. So it might be like 10. The sentencing guidelines are very strict in a lot of these serious felony cases, so that people can't kind of manipulate the system and buy their way out of stuff. So there may be a minimum that they have to meet that's pretty onerous.
And Jason, I don't think, yes, I think 5 years. Okay, I get it. These kids are not as stupid as you're making them out to be.
I'm not saying
they're
stupid.
not. They're not
still...
as innocent and childlike as you think they are.
Say that, but
they're running a massive operation.
They're still younger kids doing something stupid.
I agree that it is a younger kid doing something stupid, but on the scale, the degree to which they've done it is outstanding.
And think about the people they were affiliating themselves with in New York and Philadelphia. These are serious, like drug kingpins,
right?
And these kids were a part of that operation.
Yeah,
Lisa, what about this? What if they snitched on who they got the drugs from?
That probably will happen.
That's probably a good out for them.
That's what I would do, and then risk dying, from
for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and then moving across the country, for that. But yeah, that's crazy to me. That they should take a business class. They could get an A in a business class
when they get out of prison.
They could,
you know what? They can take those classes in prison, probably.
Good.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I think that our justice system. I know you're going to be. I'm surprised you're not with me on this, Katie.
Why?
I think our justice system can be too, except on certain things, just too much.
I think yes, 100%. When it's too much, when you're in college and maybe you bought weed or sold weed. Okay, but this is. Again, I don't know how the sheer size of this operation to me is like not just small pennies.
How would you feel though if you had a kid? Because I've known this in college too. How would you feel if a kid was like my roommate was selling acid and he was selling it, a lot of it. I don't think he was getting it from major drug pins, but he was selling acid to a lot of people. Do you think he should go away for 5 years?
Probably.
No, I think it should be less because again, he's not doing this whole organization and cutting and weighing and selling all the drugs. No,
I mean I have to know how much he was selling. If anybody got hurt from it or died from it, or
I mean there's a lot of factors there for sure. But
and he sounds like he was a low man on the totem pole. Like these were the big guys. These were the guys that were top down running the operation.
Yeah, they're saying the two top ones, including this Robinson, whose dad's an attorney. They do say in Pennsylvania there is a minimum of 5 years.
Oh my
Yeah,
God!
I figured it was 5 or 10 years. So there's no way, they'll do 5 years.
Yeah, if you transport one time 1,000 grams or more of cocaine, and they did that multiple times.
All right, so you're saying, Lisa, that if they get sentenced to 5 years, they're probably going to be out a lot sooner?
No. I think they'll do 5 years, and in fact, they're facing multiple counts of this stuff. I mean, these kids they're in serious trouble.
They're facing what I'm reading up to $40 million. $40 million, 40 years and $5 million in fines.
Wow.
Because each one of those counts carries a minimum of 5 years.
There you go.
And you can't get off for good behavior or something?
You could, right? But a minimum of 5, right? Is that?
Yeah, it depends on the sentencing. I mean, so if the judge will oftentimes they'll be in the sentence. There will be when they're eligible for parole.
Now, Lisa, let me ask you this. Let's say it says a minimum of 5 years. So is that just saying, okay, the sentence has to be a minimum of 5 years, but if they are on good behavior, they could get out before the 5 years?
She's saying no.
No, usually the judge will say
No. You have to serve the whole 5.
5 at the minimum.
Well, it depends. Yeah. It depends. Sometimes the judge will say, okay, I'm sentencing you to 5 years on this count, 5 years on this count. You will be eligible to be considered for parole, and they'll say a year. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll serve the whole 5 years.
That's what I'm asking.
Okay.
That's what
yeah.
I didn't understand that, because in normal, if I've like the Tiger Gang, he gets 10 years, 20 years in prison, and the sentence is 20 years, but on good behavior, he might get out in 16, or I don't know.
I got to start looking at what is the penalties for some of this stuff, because a lot of times we don't know everything that carries the weight of this.
Well, you just don't break the law. I mean, but we all make mistakes.
This one to me is pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
I mean, this one to me is
And drugs carry serious, and this is one of the reasons there's been some reform around marijuana, because there's plenty of guys doing 25 plus years in prison for selling small amounts of weed from back in the day. And that's why there's reform around that. Mm-hmm. But you have not seen that extend to these more serious drugs like cocaine.
I did see this, Jason, this might make you feel better. The students who just kind of, like, when they brought it to them and they said, okay, put it in this package, like, okay, they kind of did that. They're just facing misdemeanors.
Yeah, their charges are not serious.
Wow.
The only two that got these serious felony charges are the 2 ringleaders. All the others are facing misdemeanors.
If you are a college kid and you get some weed, or I guess cocaine now, and you sold it to 10 college kids that wanted some, then the sentence is a lot lighter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if it's a small amount, that you're not some big distributor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
who hasn't found themselves in that situation? Where it's like,
and those lower level people
here,
weren't the ones trafficking interstate.
Fill
this bag.
Or say
you're
less.
like, okay.
Drop this sack of cash off here.
I'm like, okay.
You find yourself some weird situations, Katie, in the past?
In the past. I'm a changed human being.
Like a flop house?
I'm a changed human being.
There's so many laws, and that I just don't think people are aware of how strict they are. I mean, and there's so many laws, you can't even keep up with them.
Lisa can.
I think selling cocaine is not like oops.
Yeah,
I don't think that one's sneaking up on people.
That's why I'm so surprised, because it's like, of all the things we've ever talked about, it's like, this one is severe.
Right.
And Jason's like, I don't know, it's too long.
Yeah.
I think a majority of the times when we mention these cases and you guys bring it up, I think the sentencing is too strict. Now, if you're a murderer or a rapist or a pedophile or something like that, I get it. But all this other stuff, I think people learn their lesson after a year or two.
You hope.
I do think there's some truth to somebody who has no priors. Mm-hmm. They're not somebody that's in and out of prison where it's almost like a game to them, becomes like a lifestyle of some sort. And they got caught up and did some stupid stuff. I think a year or two in federal prison, I think you're going to be like,
hopefully turn things around.
I don't ever want to go back there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, it's like, really? If it's not, like you said, murder. Yeah. I kind of agree with you on that.
I do agree with that.
But then
as
it's
well.
That's why they have, I guess they factor in, if priors and stuff, but not in the state.
Plus, we're paying to support kids that are going to jail for 5 years. We're paying for that. I think a second offense of the same thing, then it should be a lot harsher. A first offense, to me, a lot of times should be way less than what's going on in this country.
See, that's where I disagree with that one.
Well, you're wrong.
And these kids have thrown away their lives. I mean, they were going to Penn State. Penn State's a very prestigious school. They had great, potential, and now they've really thrown that away. And, they're going to have serious felonies on their record, and they're just, it's terrible.
Are mushrooms a lot less to sell? Less of a sentence? Do you know?
No, I think if it's a hallucinogenic, illegal, substance, then yeah, no, then I think it's. But there's some ways now that people are utilizing hallucinogenics in a in a more clinical setting, and so it depends on the situation. But yeah, I mean, any serious hallucinogenic drug is going to be problematic in terms of the sentencing. The only thing that's really been affected by the kind of the reform and the lighter sentencing is marijuana.
Yeah. Well, and then again, the message that's definitely not coming across from Jason is if you're a college student or anybody, maybe just better off not doing hard drugs.
I didn't say
Selling
that.
the hard
and
drugs.
certainly don't sell
Well, but
them.
also not doing it. You can
selling,
also, some people can do it once or twice, they're fine. Other people can ruin their life and get addicted. I'm just saying.
I get that 100%. And
Kelly, I said, Katie's like, no, just selling.
I said,
Taking's fine.
just
Hard
put it on the
drugs.
selling.
You're just less likely to have an issue if you don't ever do it.
Don't get caught up in a sting. You know what I'm saying?
Never get high on your own supply. What? What are you saying, Katie?
sometimes I think certain drugs should just be illegal.
I agree with that too. I do.
Yeah.
Lisa, while we have you on the phone, we want to talk to you about something. This is a very serious.
Well, is this a different topic?
Yes, it is.
Oh, I'm going to play this real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
This is not headline news. Police busted a cocaine trafficking operation involving 2 fraternities at Penn State. It'll be easy to change their clothes to read State Penn.
I thought it was pretty clever. Pretty clever.
Pretty clever.
State Penn.
Lisa, there are federal investigators who are saying that workers were warned. They were warning the people they were working for in Ohio that there was a trench that was dangerously deep. It was unfit for people to go into, and their bosses ordered them to go into the trench anyway, and the trench collapsed. You say that there is a very interesting North Carolina tie to this law, Lisa?
Oh, we lost her.
Oh, no.
Phone just dropped. Well,
I'm trying to call her back.
we can call her back or do it next time?
Yeah, we could do it next time.
Okay.
Probably the FBI.
She was saying that probably she was listening to our
We need
phone call.
Goodman's number now.
Yeah, these workers let their bosses know that this is the trench is too deep. It's not fit for anybody to get into. It's going to collapse. They predicted everything that happened, and their bosses said, get in it anyway, and it collapsed.
Well, that's a major lawsuit.
Yes, causing there were seriously injuring 2 people, killing 1. And so Lisa commented on
she's
it.
back.
Oh, is she there?
Lisa, we lost you for a second.
Hey.
Yeah, it was like y'all's phones went down. It wouldn't go through. That was crazy.
It was
Jason,
the FBI.
He said it was the FBI.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the drug-related conversation.
I'm not holding on to your safe for you.
Not going to do it. But this trench, Lisa, that Ohio workers said that they warned it was not fit for anyone to work in, and then their bosses said get in it anyway, and then of course it collapses. You said there's a North Carolina law tied to this.
Yeah. So if this happens in North Carolina, there's a different outcome for the victims and for the families of the deceased, because where this happened in Ohio, you can only collect workers' compensation benefits, which is very limited. And in North Carolina, there was actually a very famous case from the 80s that was a trench collapse, just like this. It was the Woodson versus Rowland case. And here, if this had happened in North Carolina, where the employer is intentionally grossly negligent and told these employees, the guys said, it's not safe. It hasn't had the proper, there's trench protection, collapse protection that you're supposed to put in when the trench goes over 5 feet. And the company didn't do that. And these guys said, this isn't safe. And the boss said, get in there anyway. And then it collapsed and it killed 1 and it severely injured several others. So if it happened in North Carolina, they would be able to go after the employer for additional damages, for direct damages outside of workers' compensation. But in Ohio, the employer had to have intentionally tried to harm them, tried to kill them. Gross negligence is not enough in Ohio, which is crazy. The other good thing for any of these kind of victims is that they can go after higher level subcontractors and even the general contractor. And so there is a potential there for damages. But these are terrible situations. These people are buried alive.
Oh.
And that in this case in Ohio, it was unsafe to get equipment in there to dig them out and for firefighters. So they had to shovel 1 shovelful at a time. Dirt. It took 6 hours to get these folks out of there.
Oh, there's a race against
nightmare.
time. And they only get workman's comp, but you said they could do other avenues of suing subcontractors.
For these guys in Ohio, if there was a higher level sub or a general contractor there's potential there, but it's much worse in Ohio. In North Carolina, you can actually go directly after the employer as well as those other subs. If there was this kind of gross, like OSHA fines out the law, it's terrible.
I go, okay. Well, Lisa, you're great. As always,
Thank
we
you, Lisa.
appreciate you. If you're ever injured, contact her right away at hireaheavyweight.com. That's hireaheavyweight.com.